Hello, Ascended Warriors. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. I've gotten a couple messages from Spirit today that I cannot ignore. So I wanted to bring this very sad synchronicity to light and start a conversation about a subject that we're really, really not comfortable having, which is suicide, which is hopelessness. Now, today I learned that a friend's daughter recently tried to commit suicide, a 13-year-old girl. Within a couple minutes of hearing that story, I saw an article on LinkedIn comparing suicide to suicidal, really discussing how suicide itself is more comfortable for us as a society than dealing with people who are suicidal. Suicidal meaning has not yet tried to hurt themselves. The distinction in the article was so poignant to me, on top of the story of this young girl who recently tried to commit suicide, that I wanted to discuss it. One of the reasons that I got into spiritual work in the first place was because I was bombarded with stories of military folks, with my brothers and sisters, who have tried to commit suicide, who are thinking about committing suicide, or who had recently killed themselves. And that statistic of 20 suicides a day is no small thing. That is a huge epidemic in the military world. But it's not just us who suffer from it. There's a hopelessness in our world that people aren't talking about. It's easy to say someone has PTSD, prescribe them a pill, and then push them away. But when they have suicidal thoughts, they're too scary. They're too scary for us to talk about. They're too scary for us to do anything about because it brings out a piece of us, a human element of who we are that we aren't willing to look at. There's very few people that I've met that have never felt hopeless, that have never felt that world was too hard. When I was 13 and my parents were going through their divorce and my mother was doing drugs, she was very, very verbally abusive and occasionally physically abusive, I started sleeping with a knife under my pillow. And I slept with it under my pillow to remind myself that if life got too hard, if I couldn't take it, that I could stop. And it was such a simple thing to comfort me, to know that I could end my suffering if I had to. Even that story and sharing that story with people is uncomfortable for people to hear. And now I didn't commit suicide. I'm still here. Why is it hard for people to talk about that hopelessness that we each have, that's inside of each of us, until it's too late? We let pain build up inside of ourselves to a point where it's easier to say, I'm sorry, than ask for permission. It's easier for us to say, I'm sorry I didn't see the signs that that person was suicidal, that was going to commit suicide, rather than do something to stop them while they could still be helped. This is not to say that if someone wants to hurt themselves, they're not going to. This is to say that suicide is not a taboo subject. This is a human experience that we need to address. If someone feels lost and hopeless, they don't need to be shunned away. They don't need to be pushed away. They most certainly shouldn't be ignored. And there's no magical PowerPoint out there that's going to give you 10 steps of recognizing suicide, and all of a sudden those numbers are going to go down. But God bless the military, they give you that PowerPoint presentation every single year. We have to relate to each other on a human level in a way that we're not. It's too easy for us to pretend that everybody's going to be okay. And then that person who you know is hurting is going to snap out of it. Because if I were to relate to you on a human level with my fears and my thoughts of suicide, what am I making you look at in your own world? What kind of mirror am I holding up for your emotions? Does it bring up something in you that you don't want to address? And I'm only saying that because I get it. I have been on both sides of this coin. I have most assuredly seen and heard and been told by friends that they were thinking about committing suicide. And I have absolutely lost friends to suicide. Which side should it be easier for me to handle? The friends that I've lost, because now I can look back and say that's a shame, and I feel sadness and I grieve for them. Or deal with the ones that are still here and suffering and do whatever in God's name I can do to help them. Why is it easier for us to handle people who have already passed than to help the people that are here and asking for help? I don't know the answer to that. All I ask with this and with anything else is to start a conversation on this topic. Suicide, PTSD, depression, these are not things owned by the military, but we are obviously a group that has come out very loudly and said, look, we're not being taken care of. We see the lack in our medical care. I know that in the military, if I went and said I was depressed and having suicidal thoughts, that I could have lost my job, that they could kick me out of the military, and that the healthcare system would give me 3 weeks of virtual medical appointments and then send me on my way. I know that if I told them I was feeling depressed, they could give me a drug that I would be forced to take for the rest of my life in order to pretend that I wasn't feeling something. We whitewash this human experience. This is not a failure. This is not someone who has failed to do something or has messed up or taken a wrong path. This is a human experience that I think most of us have hit. Now, how far down that path we go is unique to each of us. But we need to be able to have these conversations with each other and recognize that it's a human experience. It's not a failure. If someone comes to a boss and says, I am suffering, I feel hopeless, I don't know where to go from here. Do we say, oh, well, you're clearly not going to be a good employee? Do we tell them, you're going to be fine, get back to work? Or do we sit down and see if there's a way that we can connect with them, to see if there's a way we can put them in touch with somebody? It seems so simple when you lay it out like that, but we are scared. We are scared to talk to people who feel lost because it might make us feel more lost. That's my theory on it. But the reverse would also be true. If you were open and heartfelt in your communications with another human, even a fucking stranger on LinkedIn, that is saying, I am suffering, that is saying, I tried to commit suicide yesterday, and you have a heartfelt connection with them for 30 seconds, you have no idea where that 30 seconds would ripple for that person, how it would affect them to know that one person in the world opened their heart and connected to them. Who knows the long-lasting effects that would have? So why do we shy away from this? We are braver than this. We are stronger than this. We are more connected naturally than we are allowing ourselves to be. Why do we fear fear itself? It's an amazing loop that we've created ourselves in. And I'd never hear with this comment, we fear fear. We think by addressing somebody on a human level that we're going to spiral. And we're so worried about our own pain that we cannot allow for the pain of others. They always say when you judge someone, when you dislike something about someone, it's because it mirrors something about yourself, something that you don't like. Now, this is something I had a hard time really understanding. But if you look at it this way, if you are judging somebody for their weight. Is that because you have a problem with your own weight or you fear gaining weight? If you are too scared to speak to somebody, if somebody comes to you and is hurting and they're saying, I feel like I'm going to commit suicide, and you shy away from that or push back, what is it that you fear in yourself? Now, we can't help anybody if we cannot help ourselves first. We just can't. We're worthless to each other if we're not whole and happy and loving of ourselves. I totally get that. But how do we help each other if we're too scared to even have these conversations? If someone says that they are feeling lost and hopeless, lean into that conversation. Lean into that blog, that video, whatever it is. God knows we communicate more in social media than we do in real life anymore. Reach out to that person and make a human connection. And push past that fear that you have about yourself. It's okay to feel helpless. It is normal. I would dare say it is normal to want to end this life because life is painful. Until you get to a point where you accept that, where you lean into it and start to treat life like a wonderful roller coaster, life is going to continue to kick you in the ass. So why can't we help each other get through it? Why do we feel we have to go on that ride alone? Nobody's ever told us we had to do this alone. That whole you're born alone, you die alone garbage. I was not immaculately conceived. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I came in from parents. There were people that have filtered in and out of my life and will continue to do so. I am never alone, even on a physical level. On a spiritual level, even less so. So why would we allow each other to go through this pain alone? It's not good enough to say, that's a shame. Or that statistic about 20 military folks committing suicide a day is tragic. It's not enough to say that. It's not enough for the VA, for the medical world, for therapists to say, well, if we'd seen the signs, maybe we could have helped. The signs are there. It's not magic. It's not rocket science. And it's certainly not written in Braille. The signs are there. We don't want to see them because we're scared. The only way to fix this, and I don't take that, even the word fix is not right. The only way to support each other during this very human experience is to be open, to push past our fear and make that human connection with each other. I want to hear y'all's thoughts on this subject. I have shared my own stories. That certainly wasn't the only time that I thought about committing suicide. It's not something I consider anymore because I've gotten to a point in my life where I've chosen joy, where I've found a way to heal from my wounds and the scar tissue. And now I'm ready and able and willing and eager to jump out there and have these conversations and talk to people that are even neck deep in that pain right now. If you need someone to make a human connection with, call me. Message me. Write on this page on Ascended Warrior anytime you want. Be open and honest about who and what you are and the human experience you're having at this time. And I will make that human connection with you. I will ensure everybody else makes that human connection with you. Because we're all in this together. Suicide should not be more accepted than being suicidal. It should not be easier to talk about people who have passed than people who are suffering. And I would love to hear your thoughts on why this is and how we open this up and take away that stigma. It's fear of fear itself. It seems kind of silly. when we can actually help each other. So please let me know what you think. Post your comments below. Check out YouTube for more videos on this and other things. Check out the LinkedIn sites if you're interested in more information about suicide awareness and mental health. There's a ton of veterans out there that are really leading the way with this and being open about their experiences and what they are going through. And thank God that they are. Because if I hadn't seen that post and heard that story today, I wouldn't have done this blog. Not because it's something I fear to do. Yeah, I guess it is. Suicide is scary. It's scary to talk about. But I'm willing to talk about it. I'm willing to share my stories, and I'm willing to connect. Because if you're feeling suicidal, it's not because you've done something wrong. If you have a family member that's feeling suicidal, it's not because you as a parent or a child or a friend has done something wrong. All you can do is connect with them. That's all you can do. Open your heart to them, to the people you love, to strangers. You might never know if it had an effect, but you're doing what you need to do. And I will close it with Neva's comment here. It's one person at a time. We cannot save the world if we're not willing to have a one-on-one connection with people. And why else are we here? We are created with massive empathy for an incredible reason. We can feel each other. We can feel love. We can feel hate. If we weren't meant to use our emotions to help each other, why would we have them? Why would we feel connected to each other the way that we are? Let's not pass down this fear to the next generation. We don't need to suffer in silence. And if you are suffering, please reach out. If not to me, then to someone, because you're not in this alone, ever, ever. What you're going through is not a mistake. It's not a weakness. It's not a failure. We're in this together, and let's make sure that the next generation feels that they can come forward with these thoughts and have someone respond to them openly and connect to them and not shy away from them because they are afraid of what it means. And I love you all so much. Have a great weekend. Please check out the Muses tomorrow. My girls are getting back together on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Muses Facebook group. We're going to be talking about what it's like for women to work in male fields and to see the beautiful scar tissue that we collect through that, but also how women are drawn to those worlds and why. So please join us tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on the Muses Facebook group. And check me out at ascended-warrior.com if you want to see any other information or just reach out to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for your comments. Please share your experiences. Share your heart, one person at a time, and this world will be better. I promise you. So until next time, my beautiful Ascended Warriors, stay safe.